Aloha, welcome to the Mr.G Podcast. This is episode 1 of season 2. I did season 1 during the hot part of the year in Hawaii. We're in Honolulu, Hawaii. It's a little bit cooler. It's about 75 degrees. Season 1 was done in another room with another background, and it was done during May, June, July of this year. It was very hot during those months, so sweating, dressed in hardly any clothes, sometimes no shirt. But I had a successful season 1, and I'm excited about season 2. I took a few months off. I had to deal with a trial about a stalker that I had. I had to deal with other things. I operate a cat feeding operation where I feed 80 to 100 cats every morning. But things have been going good there. I've received, tens of thousands of views, thousands of dollars in cat food donations, and I have a helper. I've hired a camera person slash security person because I'm feeding these cats on a dangerous street at 4 a.m. And I've done it for 4 years. I've had problems with loads of individuals, but that has really evaporated with the help of my new camera person, who also is a creator himself. What he does in his spare time is up to him. He's employed for me 15 to 30 minutes a day, trying to do 6, 7 days a week. And I really appreciate that. And that's been going well as too. Today, we're going to talk about basketball because the first season of the podcast, it was the end of the playoffs. And I spoke a lot about basketball and the upcoming rookie year of Victor Wembamyama, also known as Wemby. Now, here in middle of November, we're halfway through the season. We're 12 games into the season. We're about 10-15% into the season. But Wemby has played 12 games. So we'll talk about my predictions on how well he was going to do and how well the San Antonio Spurs are going to do this year and the season 2023-24. But we'll also talk a little bit about what we're going to tomorrow's podcast topic, which is synchronicity and manifestation. I make AI clips of all these podcasts, and I've done that with just about every episode of season 1. I put it in the AI machine, and it made 15 to 20 clips, which I've uploaded on YouTube. And the AI is really great at doing that. The most popular one, I think it had like 10, 15,000 views, is when I'm talking about manifestation, and I'm talking about the story about the bell. And there was like a monk somewhere in Thailand or Vietnam, and he had this huge bell that was hanging from a chain, and it was, so the bell weighed 2 tons, so you couldn't push the bell even if you pushed as hard as you can. But every day he would wake up and he would act like he's pushing the bell and believe he's pushing the bell, and he wouldn't ever touch the bell. He would just go right up close to it, like every single day for like 10,000 times every single day. And eventually he kept doing that every day. The bell started to move. And that right there is manifestation. Another example I've read is a man, he had to walk 12 miles to work every day, and he worked 60, 70 hours a week. And he did this for 10, 15 years, but he could never get ahead in life. And so a friend of him said, well, on your long walks to and from work, just imagine yourself finding quarters, finding gold coins or silver coins. And so while he was walking to work with his hands in his pockets, sometimes rain, sometimes snow, he would just imagine seeing quarters and seeing currency. And sure enough, soon enough, he just started seeing currency literally in real life. And I actually have tried this myself because I've worked many jobs in my life, and the ones that I've had to walk long distances to and back, I always try to be proactive. I always try to be constructive. So I actually tried that. And the reason I've stuck with me is because it worked. I imagined myself seeing money. This was at a job in Reno, Nevada, when I worked at a 7-Eleven. I walked from one side of Reno to the other side of Reno, worked 7-Eleven for an 8-hour shift as well, sometimes in the snow. But during that long walk, I remembered the story about the man finding quarters and finding money. And so I imagined myself finding money, finding lottery tickets, finding quarters, finding bills. And sure enough, during my walks, I started finding money, and it actually worked. It's a proven testimony. I'm really happy to be here today. I didn't do that much prep work for today's episode. I was going to do an interview with an individual magazine today, but they had some technical difficulties and had to postpone. So I'm glad that I had planned that I had everything set up to do the podcast, which is really great. 80% of success is just showing up. That's a quote that I've used for many years, for 20 plus years. It's actually by Woody Allen. I used to like Woody Allen a lot. Then he fucked his daughter, so his adoptive daughter. He married his daughter, I should say. And it's just like, you made a great film every year for 40 years, and you had to marry your daughter. I mean, not even that hot. Like, come on, Woody. Like, I can't even say that's your quote. Now I still say, 80% of success is just showing up, but I have to leave out the Woody Allen part. I'm like, oh, I don't know who says that. Woody Allen's banned on Amazon. You can't even get some of his movies, at least in Hawaii here. Not that I'm a big Woody Allen fan, but I don't even like Woody Allen. Woody who? I never heard of the guy. No, but I used to describe myself as neurotic, like Woody Allen. But so many people got the word neurotic mixed up with erotic. And so I'd be on a date, be like, yeah, I don't date much. I'm, neurotic like Woody Allen. And the date was like, what? You're erotic like Woody Allen? Like, you're going to marry your daughter too? It's like, no, neurotic. It's like, I think in my head, I'm living in my brain. And it's like, no, I heard you. I know what that word means. And then I just gave up with that really particular relationship. But yeah, I used to always say I'm neurotic like Woody Allen because it's a good description. Now I say I'm neurotic like George Costanza, or neurotic like Larry Allen is a better individual to represent people that are neurotic. I'm sorry, Woody Allen, you married your freaking daughter, but on to today's episode. We're going to talk about basketball. When I talk about basketball, I'm going to put on my basketball gear as well. But Woody Allen, no offense, he is a great filmmaker. He's won Oscars for Best Director. And when I was studying film at the University of Texas in Austin, I went through a Woody Allen period where I studied his films, and he had extremely low budgets on just about all of his films. He wrote each of his films. He starred in most of his films, and give him credit where credit is due. A lot of filmmakers, Roman Polanski, I can think of at the top of my head, and Woody Allen, they have, a darker backstories, but so do painters and musicians and, many other artists as well. So I think instead of, writing off their art because of things that they did in their personal life, that's the same with a professional athlete. They may be great on court, but they may have, had, 10 different kids with 10 different women off court. Dwight Howard. No. And no, I'm not going to go there. Dwight Howard, you're a great basketball player. Speaking of basketball, that's a great transition. Wemby has played 12 games so far in the NBA. Over the summer, after the Spurs drafted him, I predicted Wemby could win MVP. I predicted he'd be one of the best players ever. I was on the Wemby train before anybody. And Wemby is a great player, and he's played 12 games and he's played outstanding. He's him and Chet Holmgren of the Oklahoma City Thunder are the two candidates in lead for Rookie of the Year. It doesn't look like he'll win MVP because the Spurs are tough to watch. They have one of the worst records in the league. I believe they're 3-10. I've watched every Spurs game this year except for one, the Clippers and the Spurs. And it's, like I said, it's hard to watch. Wemby had a terrible game the last game. I usually go to sleep during the games. And it's not that Wemby's playing terrible. He's averaging about 4 turnovers a game. He's shooting about 30% from 3 and about 40% from field goals. He's averaging more than 2 blocks and more than 1 steal a game. If somebody is averaging more than a steal a game, they're one of the league leaders in steals. If they're averaging 2 blocks or more, they're one of the league leaders in blocks. A little rusty today. I haven't done this for a few months. But Wemby has been playing great, and it's awesome watching him play. He's usually the top highlight on ESPN. He's had some great alley-oops. One thing is his teammates And the coach, Greg Popovich, just signed a 5-year extension. So he'll be with Wemby for the next 5 years. It's hard to play with a player that's 7'5". He's 7'4" without shoes, 7'5" with shoes. Some people say he's still growing. He's only 19 years old. He almost hits his head on the rim. Chet Holmgren is a few inches shorter than Wemby and not as skilled as Wemby. Wemby plays point guard, sometimes takes the ball up the court. I've seen him take and make like 40-foot 3-point shots. He's shot great from the free throw line, like 70-80%. But the Spurs haven't been winning. And in the games that the Spurs have played really bad, Wemby has played really bad. The games that the Spurs have won, they've only won 3. Wemby has played really great in the 2 victories versus Phoenix, which was supposed to be one of the top teams in the league, and also their opening night victory. No, they lost the opening night against Dallas, but then the second game against Houston, they won. So in the last 10, they're 1-9. They're really hard to watch. His teammates, Jeremy Sohan is the best teammate. If you're going to build a championship team, this isn't going to be the team. There will be a lot of players that are on the Spurs this year that will not be on the Spurs next year. First off, I can think of Devin Vassell, Mr. Ball Hog, always shoot first, pass later. I don't think he'll be on the Spurs. Jeremy Sohan is really interesting guy. It's only his second year. He's really smart with a high basketball IQ. He's a defensive minded player. He's from France, like Wemby. I think him and Wemby are going to be together long term. Sohan is one of the very few NBA players who shoots free throws one-handed, and he started doing this his rookie year when he started off shooting 40% from the free throw line, a horrible free throw percentage. And the shooting coach of the San Antonio Spurs suggested that he shoot free throws one-handed because it has helped the very few players that have attempted that. One of the worst free throw shooters in NBA history, Shaquille O'Neal, had the same thing suggested to him, that he shoot free throws, try to shoot them with one hand, which also makes sense since Shaquille O'Neal had the biggest hands I've ever seen in a basketball player. He looked like he was holding a grape. And so him shooting one-handed would make sense. But Shaquille O'Neal refused to shoot free throws one-handed because he thought it made him look effeminate. He thought it made him look less manly. And Jeremy Sohan, doesn't think that way. One of the great philosophers, Deepak Chopra, says, relinquish the ego. There's great strength in that. And Jeremy Sohan heard this news about how he could improve his free throw shooting percentage. So he went from a 40-something% free throw shooter at the beginning of the season to a 69-70% free throw shooter by the end of the season. He improved his free throw shooting by more than 30% by just shooting with one hand. So he's a really interesting player to watch. He's made a lot of mistakes as well. He's averaging 4 or 5 turnovers, just like Wemby is. They have a few other players that we'll talk about. But like I said, if they're going to build a championship team, these players won't be there next year. Their center, because Wemby doesn't play center despite his size. Their center has played okay. He's probably been the leading scorer so far. And I remember he was on Portland. His name is Zach, I believe. Hold on. But overall, the Spurs were projected to win before the season started, after they drafted Wemby. Last year, they won 22 wins. This year, they're projected to win 28 wins, 28.5 by Las Vegas. So they're saying that Wemby is going to help them that much. And I kind of disagree. Or at least I did during the summer. I had high hopes for Wemby. I'm an optimist, though. I see the glass half full. And I will say, will be surprised if Wemby does not make the All-Star team. I think he'll be one of the first rookies to make the All-Star team. He's only played 12 games. I'm imagining the next 12 games are going to be much better for Wemby and the San Antonio Spurs as the first 12 games were. They've already lost 3 games of the inaugural in-season tournament, so they didn't make it to the knockout round. But the Spurs, they have a really great chance of doing some really good things. And right now, their lineup, we have Jeremy Sohan, Keldon Johnson, Victor Wembamyama, Zach Collins, and Julian Champagne. So I've watched every game except for one today. I haven't really seen Julian Champagne play, but I've seen Jeremy Sohan, I've seen Keldon Johnson, I've seen Victor Wemby, and Zach Collins as well. Zach Collins has played center. He's played pretty well. He's probably led them in scoring. But however, Keldon Johnston and also Malik Branham hasn't seen as much playing time. Normally, the starting lineup in the games that I've seen have been Jeremy Sohan, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Victor Wembamyama, and Zach Collins. Zach Collins has played pretty well. I'd give him like a B. Like I said, he's led them in scoring. He hasn't been he's a bruiser, and so that's good. He can match up with the heavier players. Victor Wembamyama is too skinny to do that. But Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell, I don't see them back next year because both of them are just shoot first. And there's been so many times Wemby is wide open in the paint. And even the announcers are like, all they have to do is throw it in the paint and Wemby will catch it. Wemby has played 12 games in his NBA career, so people still haven't been able to figure out how to use him. But every time, just about 90% of the time, if they throw the ball, if Wemby is in the paint, they throw the ball, Wemby can jump higher than everybody else, grab the ball, and dunk it in. And even on fast breaks, Wemby can run the break better than any big man in NBA history. So when he's running the break, you give him the ball at half court, and he can take 2 steps and jam it. And he's done that, and he's made the highlight reel, and it's awesome watching him play. And Wemby's great for the NBA because it brings new fans, people that would not normally watch basketball. They're watching it now because Wemby is an awesome specimen. That's why his nickname is the Alien. But he's also a really interesting person and a really likable dude, I would say. He says he learned English from Instagram videos, and he doesn't speak with an accent either. But the Spurs, like I said, they're hard to watch. They're not projected to win or make the playoffs this year. And the number 1 draft pick next year is also from France and also a center, 7'1" center. So even if the Spurs did get the number 1 pick in next year's draft, they would probably trade it because they don't have a point guard. Jeremy Sohan, the defensive-minded specialist from second-year player from France. He made the all-rookie second team last year, his first year. He has been playing point guard, so they don't have a true point guard. But the college basketball season just started. A lot of people have their eye on USC. Because USC has LeBron James is playing at USC. But he also has a teammate that's supposed to be one of the top draft picks. It's a pass first, shoot later guard. And that's who the Spurs are going to probably draft. Even if they got the number 1 pick in the lottery, they would still draft this player out of USC. And, I know everybody's wondering where Bronny James is going to be drafted. But if you look at the mock drafts for first and second round, Bronny James isn't on there. So I don't know really how good he is, Bronny James. He is playing for USC, but I don't know how much that is nepotism and how much is actual skill, because the real star at USC is Isaiah Collier, and that's the player the Spurs have their eyes on. He's a pass first point guard who could be a one and done for USC, an elite pick and roll operator with an advanced feel for the game. So that's what the Spurs really need, is a point guard. He's projected to be picked 4th right now. And the number 1 pick, Alexandre Sarr, is a French player. He's a long and mobile center with all the tools to be a star, a high-level shot blocker with a wide array of offensive skills. Sounds familiar. Sounds like Victor Wembamyama. So the Spurs probably will not draft that. And right now, if the lottery was held today, the Spurs would have the best chance in the NBA to win the lottery. And so give the media and the sports world credit. A lot of people have jumped on the Wemby ban train. If you watch episodes of season 1, I was a fan of Wemby way early, before the lottery even happened. And now Wemby's the number 1 story. Even though the Spurs are not winning, he'll probably win Rookie of the Year. And the Spurs finally have some national coverage. The last 3 games were televised. I noticed all of the Spurs national coverage comes early in the season. they've probably realized by that time, by the playoffs, the Spurs aren't going to be in the playoffs. They want to show teams that are going to be in the playoffs. One team that will be in the playoffs is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have a great starting lineup, and they have Chet Holmgren, the second best rookie in the league. Chet Holmgren had a memorable matchup on ESPN versus Victor Wembamyama in the last game, and Victor played very badly. I believe he had like 5 points, 14 rebounds. And Chet Holmgren is more in a system. He has an MVP candidate, Shea Gilchrist-Alexander, who is one of the best point guards in the NBA. He's like a model too. And Oklahoma City doesn't get the national coverage that they deserve, but they're going to finish with one of the top 4 records in the Western Conference, as well as Denver. Denver has been playing really well. The Joker is leading any player statistically, and he deserves MVP. He should have won MVP last year. And as far as the first 12 games this year, he's played outstanding, and Denver has the best record in the league. Nikola Jokic, the Joker, is top 5 in rebounds, scoring, and assists. He's not the most exciting player, but statistically, he is the best player in the NBA. I think Wemby will be the best player soon, but Joker is the best player currently. And it's an exciting NBA season. I haven't watched the Spurs every game for 10, 15 years. I plan on betting on the Spurs this year. I'm not betting on the Spurs this year, betting against the Spurs. But no, I plan on betting every year. I've bet on basketball, and I've had a lot of success with it as well. But the Spurs up next, they have the Grizzlies today. Now, the Grizzlies actually have a worse record than the Spurs. It's at home. So it's an interesting matchup between the two bottom dwellers in the NBA, the Memphis Grizzlies and the San Antonio Spurs. I've only seen Ja Morant play once or twice. I don't know if he's going to play today. I don't know if he's suspended. But next up after that, they have the Clippers. The Clippers also have lost 4 or 5 straight. So they're looking at the Spurs. They have back-to-back with the Clippers. That's one thing the NBA is doing differently this year is the Spurs or every team, they'll play 2 teams at home. So the Clippers will play back-to-back in San Antonio. So they play in San Antonio on Monday, the Clippers do, and then the Clippers play in San Antonio on Wednesday as well. And that's also, games that the Spurs are going to try to win. But at this point, it's best to just develop your team. I don't know. I don't think the Spurs will make the playoffs. I think they'll finish with one of the worst 5 records in the league and one of the best 5 draft picks. And they'll be able to draft that point guard from USC and have a much better team next year. I like Jeremy Sohan. I like Zach Collins, but Keldon Johnston and Devin Vassell, you got to go. You guys are ball hogs. They want to be the stars. 90% of communication is nonverbal. And I think it was Devin Vassell. There was a story that came out that said Wemby likes playing with Devin Vassell. It was just kind of odd. I was like, oh, what a weird story. Wemby probably doesn't like playing with Devin Vassell. And I was watching them. They were like in between plays or something. And Wemby was like wanting to go up and like just, they were like waiting for the fix the shot clock or something. Wemby wanted to go up and just stretch and touch the rim. And then Kevin Vassell like kind of went up and like started grabbing the net, like and just holding it for like 2 minutes, just holding the net, not letting Wemby come up. And people would have been like, whoa, like Wemby, you're so tall, you can grab the rim. But then Devin Vassell was just like, I'm grabbing the net, I'm starting. And the mindset of a professional basketball player, a lot of them really think they're going to win MVP and they're going to be the best. That's how they got to that point, to that elite level, because they've been the best player in the college team they were on, the best player in the high school team, the best player in the JV team. And so even the bench warmers in the NBA, they are better than 99.9% of everybody else playing basketball, but they really believe that they're going to get their shot and make an all-star team. There was a famous story with the Longhorn graduate Mooby Gibson when he played for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and LeBron James was the star, and that year was like 2008, 2009. And Mooby Gibson came off the bench, and LeBron James would tease Mooby Gibson because Mooby Gibson thought and believed that he was going to win MVP. And LeBron James won MVP that year, I believe. And so it was kind of like an inside joke, like, oh, you still going to get MVP, Mooby? And I read that in a book called The Whore of Akron, which was a book just slamming LeBron James after he left Cleveland for Miami. It was written by a sports journalist that has been banned from anywhere going near LeBron James. But it was an interesting book. And I don't know how much of it is accurate, but LeBron James, I don't think it's an understatement to say he's one of the biggest divas that the NBA has ever seen. And Victor Wembamyama is not a diva. Chet Holmgren is not a diva. The rookie they have on Portland, not a diva. The Asar Thompson twins, they're also great players, not divas. But this rookie class will be remembered for one of the top rookie classes with Victor Wembamyama and Chet Holmgren, even though Chet Holmgren was drafted 2 years ago. And the players that they have on Portland, they have Portland is surprising everyone. Houston is surprising everyone. And it's interesting. The Clippers have not done well. Phoenix has not done well. The Spurs, every game that they've lost, they've been in, and they ended up getting blown out. The Spurs have the worst defense in the NBA. I've watched every Spurs game. They gave up 152 points to Indiana. Indiana is one of the top teams in the East. But every game that the Spurs have lost, they had a chance in. From the opening game versus Dallas Mavericks. Dallas is one of the top teams in the West. Right now, as we're wrapping things up today, I'll give you my top teams in the West and top teams in the East. In the West, I have the top 4 teams in no particular order is Denver. Denver. So that's Denver. No, there's some great teams in the West. I'd say the Thunder and Sacramento. It's hard to choose 4. Denver, the Thunder, Sacramento, and who am I leaving out? I'm leaving out a good one. Phoenix is not a top 4 team. I don't think the Warriors are top 4 team. I think Warriors are number 5, in my opinion. The Warriors are going to be there, but I think they'll be exiting in the first round. Mavericks and Timberwolves. Can't leave out the Timberwolves. Timberwolves, I think Ant is going to win MVP. He's going to surprise everyone and win MVP despite Joker having a better statistical season. They don't want to give Joker 3 MVPs. So Ant was going to win MVP for the Minnesota Timberwolves, the first player since Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett, when the season first started, said the Spurs were going to make the playoffs. So I wasn't the only one that thought the Spurs were going to be better than they are. But also the Clippers have been played terrible. Memphis has the worst record in the league at 2-9. The Trailblazers are 3-9. So my top 8 in the Western Conference, the top 8 playoff teams. Top 4, Nuggets, Mavericks, Timberwolves, Thunder. And those are the top 4 teams right now. And then I have Kings. The Rockets are number 6. I don't think the Rockets are going to make it. Warriors are number 10. They're 6 and 7. I think the Warriors will get their stuff together. So the top 4, Nuggets, Mavericks, Timberwolves, Thunder. Then I have Kings, Warriors, Lakers. And then the number 8 team, the Suns. And it's packed. It's a packed conference. Eastern Conference, I have Celtics, Sixers, Bucks, Pacers as top 4. Celtics, Sixers, Bucks, Pacers, top 4. Then I have, in no particular order, Cavs, Hawks, Knicks, Heat, Magic. So it's really top heavy on the Eastern Conference. The Nets also could make the playoffs as well. Teams that won't be in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, the Raptors, the Bulls, the Hornets, the Wizards, the Pistons, they won't even make the stand-in or the play-in tournament. Teams that won't make the play-in tournament in the Western Conference, I got to go with Blazers, Spurs, Jazz, and Pelicans, and Rockets too. Rockets have got to fold. Rockets, they have the 6th best record in the Western Conference right now. I don't think that can last. I know they have a great young center, but a European center. But I haven't really seen them play. I saw them play the Spurs. The Spurs beat them. One of the few victories the Spurs have is against the Rockets. I don't think they'll really do much. It's so early in the season. It's only 10% into the season, 15% into the season. So there's a lot of games. I'm not watching every game. I watch a game like every other day. So I watched the Spurs game, and Wemby has played 12 games. He has 70 games to go. And let's see his actual stats. I can tell you over the top of my head, he's averaging 2 blocks, 1 steal, more than 2 blocks, more than 1 steal. He's averaging less than 20 points, which is not good, and less than 10 rebounds, which also isn't good. His last game, he totaled 8 points, 4 of 15 field goals, 0 of 3 3-pointers, 14 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 blocks in only 28 minutes. He struggled mightily offensively in his first matchup against fellow unicorn Chet Holmgren. He missed 9 of 15 shots while committing 5 turnovers. Inefficiency and turnovers have been a concern for Wemby to start his career, but those are more than enough. There have been more than enough flashes for fantasy managers to overlook those mistakes. The rookie phenom salvaged his production Tuesday by securing a career-high 14 rebounds and swatting multiple shots. In his first 11 games, he's averaging 18 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 2.4 blocks, and a steal in about 30 minutes of play. So, he's leading rookies, though. Rookies have a hard time in the NBA. It's a big change. And I think as the season goes on and as his teammates learn how to play with him, as they learn where to put the ball, the Spurs will get better. But I think Popovich will also wrap it up sometime early after 65 games, after he qualifies for the Rookie of the Year. Popovich will probably wrap it up. They're going to get a really great draft pick, the point guard from USC next year. And so the playoffs will be Wemby's first here next year. But thank you guys for watching. This is episode 1 of season 2 of the Mr.G Hawaii podcast. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. Easiest places on YouTube and on Twitter. I'm really happy to do this. I'm very grateful. I've had an awesome, productive morning, Saturday morning here. Gotten so much done. I fed over 100 homeless cats. I made a lot of videos as well. So check that out on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all my socials. Go to my link tree and read the reviews of my first book, Google Gonzo Education. It's something I'm very proud of, and you can read about it yourself. Everybody have a great day. Aloha.